as you know, I'm a chronologically mature woman. I've been around for a while, and I have been involved in business running health clubs since I was 18. And ever since then, because I screwed up royally so many times when it came to employing people, there was one stage there we were employing over 200 people, and it's a skill and an art to be able to do this properly. And I learned a lot of really stupid things about what not to do, and I learned the hard way. And I also then started researching and studying the people who are the best in the world at it. So who gets the best players on their team, who gets the best members for their boards, who are the CEOs that are really good at attracting great people onto their team. And I started asking lots of questions. So I started my foolproof plan when I was 18, and everybody I've met since then who's a boss, a CEO, a coach, a scout, the head of a band, the head of an orchestra, doesn't matter. I ask them the same question. Why do you employ people? Why do you put people on your team? What are the things that you're looking for in an organisation to make sure that the organisation can grow? And that's what I'm going to give you tonight. So does that sound exciting? And I will share with you point by point how this is really, really exciting. See, look at that flexibility. Woohoo! All right, everybody, 11 seconds on your mark. Get set, go. 11, 10, go. 9, faster. 8, faster. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Woohoo! Brain drive, neurotropic factor, BDNF, fertilizer for your brain, dopamine, reward drug for your brain. Make sure that you get puffed as often as possible so you pump those into your brain. Okay. Woohoo! If I say sweet spot to, I think everybody that's here, perhaps Lorrazelle, you might not have heard of this before. Sweet spot is where you live your life literally in a sweet as spot. That's a really good word for New Zealanders because we use that quite regularly over here. And the 3 things that make a sweet spot to live in, number 1 is that you're doing what you are the most passionate about. So everybody get your fist up and get excited about it. I'm only ever going to do what I am the most passionate about. I'm only ever going to do what I'm the most passionate about. A lot of people get a job. A lot of people go to work. Job stands for just over broke. And work stands for doing something when you'd rather be doing something else. And that is not what tonight's about. A lot of people say to me, oh, Rowie, I've got to get a job to pay my bills. Well, how about we get a career path that you love that will automatically pay your bills? Does that sound good? So, the first thing is you've got to do what you're the most passionate about. Obviously, the second part of that is simple. It means that you want to be the best in the world at what you do. If you have a job that you don't like, if you have to go and work with people that you don't respect, if you're selling a product or service that you're not excited about, it's very difficult to then go and do the ongoing training and education and learning to be really good at what you do. So it seems really simple that if you do what you're the most passionate about, you want to be the best in the world at it. If you put those 2 together, then of course you'll add massive value, not just to the customers and clients of the business, but you'll add massive value to the business. Because if you want to keep getting better and better at what you do, the business is going to grow. So here I get really excited about this because most people don't go to a job interview or go into a business or go into any organisation because it's what they're the most passionate about. And it's the number 1 reason why you would get a job, why you would get a position. And I'll use the ultimate. If you want to go, for example, to audition for a movie, there are people who get into movies who are not the best actors. But because they're the most passionate about getting that role, they are the ones that get the role in the movie. And the one that comes to mind, if you haven't heard Sylvester Stallone's story, he's been now in the movie industry for obviously a very long time. But he wrote the movie Rocky, and he wanted to star in his own movie. If you've ever seen any Sylvester Stallone movies, no one's ever going to say that he's the best actor or he's the most technically perfect actor. But he said to the producers of the movie when they finally bought the script, I want to star in this movie. And they said, no, we don't want you. You're not good enough and you can't act and etc. But he said, no, I want to do this. I want to do this. And he just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. He ended up doing the movie for almost nothing. And if you're unaware of the history of that movie, it ended up winning an Academy Award, Best Movie of the Year. Not because he was the best actor, but simply because he was the most passionate about being in his own movie. And can I please, from my heart to yours, please don't underestimate your clients, your customers, the people you want to do business with, the people you apply for a position with. The number one thing they're looking for is that you want to be on that team, that you want to be their trainer, that you want to be in their business. Even if you've got two really elite sports people who are highly skilled at the sport, if you are the owner of the team or the coach or the scout to find the best players for the team, if you've got two highly skilled players, you'll pick the one who's the most passionate about playing on that team. A lot of elite athletes say to me, look, I just want to get a position on a basketball team or a position on a football team. I don't care who I play for. And I always say, back up, back up. That's what's going to not get you on the team. Which is the team that you're the most passionate about playing for, and make sure that the people who are putting you into the team know that. So number one is, what are you the most passionate about? Number two is, you want to do all the training, the education and the learning. And that's probably the most, and I'm going to give you lots of these tonight, but the most powerful thing is that you want to be the best at it. And that means that you'll do the training, the learning and the education, not because you have to, but because you want to. It's the number one reason why people are top level exercise professionals. They don't do a program in the education and do the knowledge checks and do the learning to get a bit of paper. They do it because they want to be the best exercise professional. They want to be the best in the world at what they do. So if you are going to do anything, make sure that it's what you're passionate about. And then if you're going to say to people, I'll do whatever it takes to get this position, make sure that you are prepared to do whatever it takes. But if you love it, it's not like it's work. You just want to do it. Then, of course, you'll add massive value to the team and to the organization. The big thing to remember is that we can teach skill. You can learn how to play a game. You can learn how to play an instrument. You can learn how to sing. You can learn how to train somebody. You can learn how to run a business. You can learn how to make sales. You can learn how to pour beers, can't you, Yazzie? You can learn anything. That's the simple part. The important part is that you've got the attitude that wants to learn. So again, an organization, a boss or a client will, even if you are highly skilled, they'll still pick the person who's got the best attitude, because attitude can't be taught, but skills can be taught. So always ask yourself, am I doing this for the right reason? And if it's not the right reason, then go and do something else. Do what you are absolutely passionate about. So that's the number one thing to get any career path, to attract any client, to do any business, is you have to do it because you love it. You'll do the training then, and then of course you'll add massive value to the business. Now, if you're applying for a position, and it goes the same if you're trying to attract clients into your business, you have to get to the right person. The target market when you're applying for a job is obviously the person who's doing the employing. If you are wanting to get onto a sporting team, it's the person who is responsible for attracting players into the team. If you want to get into an orchestra, it's the person responsible for auditioning the players for the orchestra. So you've got to find the right person. So number one is, what do you want to do? Obviously, why do you want to do it? Why are you so excited about it? And the next thing is, who do you need to talk to? Who is the right person that you've got to get directly in front of and be able to say, I am the right person for this position? And this is where a lot of people screw up. I'm going to send you a whole heap of stuff on how to do a great CV and a great resume. And I'll just ask quickly, who calls it a CV? Hands up. Curriculum vitae. Or who calls it a resume? Okay, what about a business plan? They're all the same thing. The written material that you use to attract people into your business or to attract people to employ you, the art and the skill of creating one of those is simple marketing, and that's what the Max program is all about. It has to get people's attention. It has to create interest, desire for somebody to get in contact with you, to take action, to call you or bring you in for an interview. So obviously your CV, your resume, your business plan, your marketing, your website, your Facebook, your Instagram, all has to be about, who am I talking to, and am I talking to the right person? So yes, this is what I want to do. This is why I want to do it. Now, who am I going to tell that to? So if you're applying for a position, a lot of CVs will say this: to whom it may concern. Well, you may as well be saying, I haven't bothered to find out who you are. I'm just going to put to whom it may concern. If you have a CV, a resume, or a business plan that starts like that, it means that you haven't done the research to find out who runs the company or who is the person that's actually going to be reading this. So find out who you need to get in front of. Then it's about finding the most unique and different and special way to get in front of them. So if you, for example, email a resume, and I'll just give you the really sad example. I have sat in so many offices with CEOs, with HR managers, with sporting team coaches, and people send in a resume via email and they just go delete, 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 delete. And it goes a bit like this. If this person was serious about getting this position, they wouldn't have just sent an email. If this person was serious about getting this position, they wouldn't have sent such a boring email. If this person was serious about getting this position, the headline or the subject of the email would have been more than just CV of John Smith. If you're going to send an email, and I strongly suggest that you never do because they're so easy to delete, but you have to stick to the rules of marketing. So if you're going to email a client, for example, you can't just say, hello, John. There has to be a subject to that, a reason for the person to open your email. But I strongly suggest that you don't send an email, even if the company asks for, please only apply via email. The challenge with that is that everything that comes via email can be easily deleted. So when you know who you're going to get in contact with, now you find out who that person is, who they are. So are they married? Do they have children? Do they have cats or dogs? Do they like to drink wine? Do they eat chocolate? Do they like to go to the movies? What sports do they play? Find out about the person that you're going to be talking to and then contact them via what they're interested in. So the example that I've just used only yesterday was a CEO of a company, and his German Shepherd's name is Rex. So the letter went to Rex, not to the owner of the business. And it was, Dear Rex, I want to work for your owner's company. So please let him know that I'm very serious about attracting a position in his company. And these doggy treats are to bribe you into talking to your owner to let him know that I want to work in his company. Now, I've got to share with you that it doesn't matter who you are and how professional you are and how important you think you are. If somebody sends you a letter like that in a coloured envelope with doggy treats inside it, it's very likely that you'll want to talk to that person. You often hear, I'm going to buy somebody a gift, it's the thought that counts. Well, if you're going to buy somebody a gift, make sure you put some thought into it. So don't buy wine for somebody that doesn't drink wine. Make sure that if you buy chocolate for somebody, it's dark chocolate because they like dark chocolate versus white chocolate, etc. But before you send a CV, before you send a resume, make sure you send a pre-frame letter. And this is to your clients as well. Really excited to do business with you. Really excited to have you in my life. And send them something that shows that you've done the research on them, not just the organisation, but on them as a person. So what do you want to do? Why do you want to do it? Who do you need to get in contact with? And then get in contact with them personally. If you don't think this is personal, can I promise you that every single business owner that I've ever spoken to, that's the visionary or the person who runs the business or the person that loves the business, they want people in their business who they know loves their business. It's really interesting when people go, oh, I just want to get a job. But the person who owns the business, it's a risk to employ you. Whether they pay you $10,000 a year or $1 million a year, it's a major risk to employ somebody. If a client's going to take you on board and pay you money, it's a major risk to pay you money. They don't know that you know what you're doing. They don't know that you won't hurt them. They don't know that you've got the right qualifications or education. They don't know that you're not a stupid person. You have to prove it to them by what you do before they do business with you. So make it as personal as you possibly can. If somebody's going to invest money in you, and that's what, when you go and work for somebody, you actually a liability to the company. They have to find money to pay you. And you don't become an asset to that company until you prove that you can bring business into that company or that you are valuable to the business. So until then, you're a liability. So please show this person, whoever it is that you've got to get in contact with, that you are a real person and this is personal to you too. So coloured envelopes, hand addressed, make them fat with something inside them. And most of you have heard all of this before, but if you don't do it, it won't work. Become creative, design something exciting to make sure that the person that you come in contact with knows that you're really serious. Now, once you've got an interview, and I promise you, if you do something unique and different, whether it's a client or the coach or the producer of the movie or the owner of the business, if you do something unique and different to get in contact with them, if you are memorable, if you stand out from the crowd, they'll want to talk to you because they're intrigued. They want to know why you're different. They want to know what you've got, and they don't know that until they get in contact with you. Now, the challenge we've got right at this moment, of course, is that it's unlikely that you'll be able to go for a face-to-face interview. It's likely that you'll be doing your interview exactly like what we're doing now, which is via some form of social media platform. And I don't know if you've seen what's been happening on social media platforms of late, but you've got to get, if you're going to have an interview via Zoom or via GoToMeeting or via Skype, make sure that your background is amazing. Make sure that you look fantastic. Make sure that you've got positivity and energy. This is, when you go face-to-face for an interview, you've got everything to share. You've got body language, facial expressions, voice intonation, and you're there. The real you is there. It's a lot harder to do it via camera. So make sure that everything you're doing gets upped. The ante has to get upped if you have to do the interview like this. Pre-interview, however, there's a couple of things to do. If you get an interview, please thank the person. So that goes for getting a client. If a client books a consultation with you, make sure that you send them something personal to say thank you. So if somebody's going to spend the time to interview you, make sure you send them a personal letter, hand addressed, stamp. Thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to investing time with you. People don't do that kind of stuff anymore. And if you've received anything in the mail of over the last few weeks, when everything's being done via social media, it's so nice to get a handwritten note. There's a few of you here tonight that have sent me personally handwritten notes, and particularly, I suppose it might be people older who like to get mail, but I promise you that it's such a unique and different thing to actually get something in the mail. To go a step further, to stand out even more, is to send it via express courier. So if you really want to get something to a boss, if you really want to get in front of somebody and you really want to be impressive, then send it via express courier. Now, the only challenge with that, of course, is a lot of people are getting stuff via courier now because people are doing a lot of online shopping. But if something comes in a beautiful box and it's got a bow and it's got something inside there that the person will like, I promise you they will open it. Whether it's a coloured envelope or a big box, but anything that isn't a white envelope with a window in the front, people will open that thing, which is really exciting because it means now you've got an in. Now remember, marketing is get people's attention, create interest, create desire for them to contact you, to take action to contact you. So whatever you do to send them has to be unique, different, and memorable so they want to get in contact with you. So you've now got an opportunity to interview, but here's what you may not know about your clients and about somebody who wants to employ you or somebody who wants you to put you on their team. They will now do their research. Doesn't matter what your CV looks like or your resume looks like, they are now going to search you on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. If you don't have a unique, special, amazing expression of who you are on all of your social media, this is a really good time to clean it up. I will promise you that most employers now and most clients will not be reading what you send them. They're going to be looking what social media says about you and what you say about yourself on social media. So make sure that everything you send out to the world is a true reflection of who you are, which is why we go so in depth at Max with the five words to describe who you are, and then make sure that your Facebook, your Instagram, your LinkedIn, any way that somebody can find you, all they will see is who you really are, the 5 words to describe you as a person. Now, you hear me use mine all the time. Mine are tough and fair, positive, stylish, disciplined, and professional. And I'm sharing them with you again because before I send anything out, and whether it's an email, and anything on social media, a letter, whether I talk on the phone or I see somebody in person, I always go through that in my head. Will I be representative of who I am? Will this person see me as a tough and fair, positive, stylish, disciplined, and professional woman? And if not, what do I need to do differently to make that change? So if you're going for an interview or before you even start looking for new clients or a new position, make sure that everything that the world can see is a true reflection of who you really are. So clean it all up and make it really, really special. So the next thing that you may not know is that all employers now, and I share this with you openly, and remember I've done the research now since I was 18, and I ask every single employer, CEO, HR manager, scout, coach, everybody. The challenge we've got is that employers now have, and clients too, by the way, it's really hard to get rid of an employee if they're not very good. It's even hard to get rid of a client. If you take a client on board and you don't like them or they don't like you, it's uncomfortable. That process of leaving your trainer or leaving a business or you leaving your trainer or a business, it's always awkward and uncomfortable. So if it's an employment situation, however, it becomes legal. So there's a lot of things that employers are doing now that you may never ever find out about. And I'm going to give you an insight because they obviously share them with me. And having employed hundreds, if not thousands of people myself, I've certainly got my own special things that I use to find out about people. So I'm going to give you some really interesting examples. There's one quote that I would take on board very seriously, which is, how do you treat people that can't do anything for you? It's usually when you go for an interview or you want to impress a client, that's what you're doing. You're trying to be impressive. And often you will treat people who can do something for you very impressively. But how do you treat the people that can't do anything for you? So there's a lot of employers now who, if they invite you in for an interview, for example, they'll ask their mum to come and sit outside the building, or they'll have the cleaning lady make sure that she's standing at the front desk when you come in, or they'll watch how you treat the receptionist, or they'll put food out and see if you offer food to other people. A classic that's a lot of employers use is if there's chairs to be put out for a group interview, they'll say, oh, I'm just going into the other room to get some more chairs, and they watch carefully who gets up to help, who gives their chair to somebody else. Those special things that, because it's such a risk to employ somebody, it's really important to find out who people really are, and obviously a CV doesn't really tell an employee who you really are. So the person that you are, if it's not who you are, don't try and pretend to be somebody, because it's going to bite you in the bum, whether that's with your client or with an employer. So be aware that there's lots of those where the employer is looking for a way to find out what your character is really like. I'll give you another example I use on a regular basis. Richard Branson did a television show, and he just did one season. It was like The Apprentice, where he put an ad out worldwide, and he said that he wanted to, it was a television show, a reality television show, but at the end of it you would get a job with the Virgin Group. So you had to apply via CV, via resume, and then via interview. And they got it, I think, down to the last 15 or 20 people, and please don't quote me on the number, but the last group of people were invited to come to London to the Virgin head office. And Virgin flew them to London, and then they were going to the head office to meet Richard Branson to work out who was actually going to go on the show, and then who would get the opportunity to get a real life position in the Virgin Group. What these people didn't realise is that the taxi driver, the little black taxi that picked them up from Heathrow Airport, was Richard Branson. He just had a disguise on. And half of the people that arrived at Heathrow to go for their interview, he put them straight on the plane and sent them home because of the way they treated the taxi driver, which was him. Please be aware that who you are is you can't hide it. There'll be a time when who you really are comes out, which is why there's so much focus in the Max program about becoming the very best person that you can be and having strong core values and strong standards and high standards, so that who you are is a beautiful person. And that's what employers are looking for. That's what your clients are looking for. That's what every organisation is looking for. And again, I'll go to sporting teams or musical orchestra, for example. Yes, they want you to be highly skilled, but nobody wants to hang out with a diva. Nobody wants to hang out with somebody that's arrogant. Nobody wants to hang out with somebody that's rude or disrespectful. If you are part of an organisation, part of a team, part of a group of people, it's yes to be highly skilled, but the really important thing is that you're a great person to be with. So always keep those things in mind. Obviously, when you go to meet somebody, whether it's via a camera or whether it's face-to-face or even on the phone, this expression, you only get one chance to make a first impression, that's not just some silly quote that somebody made up. we actually only get one chance to make a first impression. And your impression comes from, depending on which expert you listen to, somewhere between 0 and 30 seconds. We all make a first impression of somebody. And we make an impression on the way people hold themselves, so posture is really important. Obviously, the expression on your face. And you've heard me share this often, if you're a really happy person, how about you inform your face? A lot of people share, yes, and they write it in their resume, I'm really happy, and then they come to their interview and they look really grumpy. Well, the idea is that who you are and what you do are the same thing. So that first impression that you make, think about it really carefully. Have I got great posture? Have I got a great smile? Am I dressed really well? And again, those of you that know me, this is a really interesting one for me. If you are serious about this position, if you are serious about attracting this client, if you are serious about getting into this particular organisation, would it be a really good idea to dress that way? A lot of people say to me, oh, Rowie, I'm just going for a job interview at the supermarket, or I'm just going for a job interview to be a ticket collector or a parking attendant, or it's just a job to pay the bills. But everything we do is a representation of who we are. And why would one job be less or more important than another? So even if you're going for a job to pay the bills, wouldn't you still dress the very best that you possibly can? And it doesn't matter which country you talk about or which organisation. What is the best way that you can dress? And I'll give you some really classic examples of people that have gone literally to get a job at the supermarket or a job at McDonald's or a job to be a parking attendant. That's at the top of my head because that was one just recently. And they went dressed in a suit. And the owner of the organisation or the HR manager said, wow, you're obviously really serious about getting this position because this is just a job in a supermarket, but you've come dressed in a suit. Never ceases to amaze me how many people go for positions in health clubs or personal training studios and they just dress appallingly. And I say that's not my word. You've never heard me use that word before. That came from a personal training manager who said to me, Rowie, these people rock up here dressed like they're going to the beach. It's appalling, was the quote that she gave me. So I'm sharing with you that a first impression, the way we dress is obviously very important. Your posture is important, your facial expressions. The way you smell, too much perfume, too much aftershave, wrong reason to be memorable. Stinky underarms, wrong reason to be memorable. If you're going to have hair on your face, make sure that it's perfectly groomed. And please be aware that there are still some employers, especially if they've been around for a really long time, where they understand now that they might have to employ you because you've got facial hair, but unfortunately it's still a barrier for some people. And remember, I'm much older than most of you. For some people it's a real challenge. Tattoos, piercings, facial hair. And if it's going to be a challenge, make sure you're the person that points it out. Which brings me to my next part to the foolproof plan. What are you prepared to do to get this position, to get this client? And a lot of people say I'm prepared to do whatever it takes. One of the things that's really important is the lack of arrogance. And I'll give you the example as to why. Even if you think you're the best person for this position, you're the most qualified, you've got the most experience, you are the best. Nobody likes arrogance. So even if you think you're the best, what a beautiful thing to say. I think I'm highly qualified for this position, but I know that I've got so much to learn. And this is what I'm prepared to do, or what do you need me to do to make sure that I'm the right person for this position? So what I'm about to give you now is the ultimate question. When you apply for a job, when you apply for a position on a team, when you apply to get a new client, when you apply for any area of your life where somebody has to choose you over somebody else, there's this beautiful question. It's the ultimate question. Are you ready? What do I need to do to be the best person for this position? It's the ultimate question to ask. What do you need? If I was the best person for this position, what would I need to do? That, first of all, if you're asking the question, it means you're in control of the conversation. And second, it shows that you're open to learning, regardless of how super qualified you are or how good you are at what you do or how many years of experience you've got. You're still really prepared to learn. And one of the most horrible things in anybody is their inability to learn anymore. It's called arrogance. So regardless of how good you are, and there's a lot of you here tonight who are highly experienced at what you do, but ultimately what you want to be open to is learning. And I share this with you every day, I think. I've been an exercise professional since I was 13. I'm now closer to 60 than 50, and all I know is that I don't know very much. I'm learning every single day. And if you are open to learning, then you're obviously going to be more likely to be good at what you do. So the next part to this amazing plan is how much research have you done? So you're going to the interview, you're dressed beautifully, you've done all the pre-frame, you're at the interview, whether it's via video or face-to-face. Now it's, if I use the communication technique, if you're in control of the conversation, you're in control of the conversation. It means that you know what's coming next. If the interviewer is in control of the conversation, that's where we can get into trouble, because you can get asked a question that you don't know the answer to. It can be really awkward or uncomfortable or embarrassing if you don't know the answer. And just as a side note, be really aware that if you don't know the answer to something, if your client asks you a question, if you're a trainer and your client asks you a question, if you ever try and pretend that you know the answer, come up with an answer, and we've all been in that situation where you know the person's talking about something that they don't know what they're talking about. But just be honest. I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm going to research it and find out. So if you're ever in an interview situation with a client or an employer and they ask you a question and you don't know the answer, be dead straight honest. I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm going to research it and make sure that I do. So that's if you're asked a question, but ultimately don't put yourself in the situation where they're going to be asking you questions. You be the person that's going to ask the questions. So before you go to an interview with a client or with somebody that's going to be employing you, come up with the top 10, 15, 20 questions that you think that they would ask you, and you be the person to ask the question. Now, you can't do that unless you've researched the company. So I'm going to give you some really interesting examples of that. If you're going to, for example, work for McDonald's, and I've got a student just recently who applied for a position at McDonald's, and she said to me, "Oh, Rowie, it's just McDonald's." And I said, well, there's a couple of really interesting things there. Number one is it's one of the most successful companies in the world. From a business perspective, whether you like the food or not, it's one of the most successful companies in the world. Number two, what do you know about McDonald's? And she said, oh, it's just Macca's. So the suggestion was, have you watched the movie The Founder, which is about McDonald's? And when you go to your interview, you're going to be asking questions based on what you know about that organisation. So I'll give you some examples. Let's say you go for an interview with a gym. You might say something like, I know that you already have 3 gyms in this local area. Were you planning on opening more than 3 in the next 12 months? I know that there's 27 classes already on the agenda every week for group exercise. Did you want me to teach new classes of group exercise, or were you planning on having me fill in one of the 27 classes that you're already running? Now, what that shows is that you've done the research on the business. I know that the CEO of the organisation is John Smith, and he's been in the organisation now for 23 years. Could you share with me a little bit more information about John Smith? Now, that shows that you know about the business. This little girl who shared with me she wanted to work at McDonald's, I said, do you know who started McDonald's? And she said, I suppose Mr. McDonald. Well, if you went to an interview at McDonald's and you said that you thought Mr. McDonald opened the company, you would probably look very silly. So whatever business you're going into, and I'm asking you now from my heart to yours, this is not about the job that you're going for or the client that you're coming in contact with. This is who you are. If you're really serious about doing something properly, wouldn't you do everything in your life really effectively? So wherever you're going to apply for a position, make sure you know everything possible about that business, and then have at least 10, 15, 20 questions that you can ask about the business that shows that you have put the effort in to learn about the business. Now, the beautiful thing about that, and again, I'm sharing you inside information, if you're talking to the CEO, the visionary who started the company, somebody who loves working in that organisation, they are going to be so excited that you're asking questions because they love their company. Now, there's two things there. One is there's a communication skill called when we're asked a question, we're taught to answer the question. So if you go into an interview and you're the person asking the questions, the interviewer will answer the questions because as humans, that's how we're taught. We're brought up that if somebody asks you a question, you're meant to answer the question. But number two, if you're asking questions about this person's business, about their team, about their orchestra, about their organisation, they are going to be so rapt that you are interested in what they do. Most people come to an interview totally ignorant of the organisation, no clue about what the organisation does, and the poor interviewer has to ask questions. And I will share with you that, excuse me, itchy nose, that a lot of people who run interviews, when they get to the end of the day and they've interviewed 30, 40, 50 people, they've had a really crappy day, and they'll share that with you. I met some really stupid people today who didn't know anything about the organisation. They didn't care about the job they were applying for, and they just wasted my time. Please don't be that person. Please be the person that is memorable for the right reasons. She was passionate. He was excited. They wanted to be here. They'd done the research, and we want to put them on the team. And can I promise you, if you've gotten to this point, and let's just cover this over, you want this position because it's what you're the most passionate about, or you want this client because this is what you're the most passionate about. You're going to be the best in the world at it because you want to add massive value to people's lives. So why are you doing this? Because you love it. Who are you talking to? You found the right person to talk to, and they feel like it's a personal relationship because you've done something to build the relationship. You've done massive amounts of research on the company or the team or the organisation. So you go to the interview asking great questions, and you go there treating everybody with respect and being friendly and kind, and you are presented beautifully and professionally. Can I promise you at this stage you already have the position? These people are just going, God from heaven has sent me this person. I'm so excited that they're here. Now, for some reason, if you don't get this position, and I would be highly surprised if you didn't already up until now, and the reason I share that with you is I have lots and lots of Max students who are not qualified yet who end up with great positions just because they understand this process. And they're not even qualified yet, but the gym wants to employ them, or the personal training studio wants them, or they have clients already because they've put this into place already. But for some reason, if you don't get this position, now becomes a really interesting process. Because remember I promised you it's a foolproof plan? Well, here's where the foolproof comes in. There's this great quote, and it's not just some airy-fairy quote. The only reason you fail is if you give up. Now, what happens with most people, if they don't get the position at the time of the interview, most trainers, most people who are salespeople, if they don't get the client at the first interview or the first consultation, they just give up. Well, can I promise you, and there's another session here that some of you may want to join in on. I do a session at Max on 100%, the 100% foolproof plan for getting every single client from your initial consultation. And many people say to me, Rowie, that's just impossible. You can't get every single client. You can if you never give up. And yes, I had many members or many people who came to my gyms or to me as a personal trainer who didn't get started on the first day, or the second time I contacted them, or the 5th time I contacted them, or the 30th time I contacted them. But 5 years after me keeping in contact with them, if they didn't become my client or my member, somebody in their family did. And I'm sharing that with you because you can't fail unless you give up. Why would you apply for a position if you didn't really want it? And if you really wanted it, why would you give up? So I'm going to share with you the most beautiful story I've got, and it's from the Gold Coast Vicky, so you might be able to picture this. It was a gym that was in 50 Cavill Avenue in Surfers Paradise, which is a big, obviously it's at 50 Cavill and a big, tall building. There's a beautiful gym there, and one of my students, his name was Trevor Basecki. And if you met Trevor, if he was with us tonight, you probably wouldn't say, he's the most professional guy you've ever met, or he's the most articulate guy you've ever met, or he's the most knowledgeable guy you've ever met. But he was certainly the most passionate guy to want to work in a health club. And the job he had at the time was travelling around the Gold Coast, emptying out cigarette vending machines. So people would put their money in a vending machine and he would collect the money out of the vending machine. That was his current job. He became a Max student and he wanted to work in a gym. He wanted to work in the gym that was in the 50 Cavill Avenue. It was called Pace, and it was a chain of health clubs. And Rowie, I really want to work there. So He put all of this into place, went to the interview, dressed beautifully, the whole everything into place, and he didn't get the position. And he applied again, and he didn't get the position. The next thing that's really important about not getting a position is, of course, asking for feed forward. I like to call it feed forward, and I would say that to the interviewer. I would say, I don't want to go backwards from the information you're going to give me. I want to go forwards. So please give me feed forward on how I can get this position. What do I need to do differently? What do I need to change? What do I need to learn? What do I need to go and train to do so that I can get this position? And interestingly, a lot of employers will tell me that if somebody just asked that question, that would be a reason to employ them, because most people don't ask for feed forward. So ask for feed forward, and not just face-to-face, but send a letter. So you didn't get the position, you send a letter and you say, thank you so much for interviewing me. I would do this with all my clients as well, by the way. Thank you very much for investing time with me. You obviously didn't become my client, but I'd like to know what I need to do differently. What do I need to change? What do I need to improve on so that I either don't do whatever I did wrong with you to anybody else, or that I can attract you as my client or attract me into your business. So Trevor went through that whole process. No, he's not the right person. It's a poshy gym. You know, it was stainless steel and glass, and rich people went there, and he just wasn't kind of the right match for that particular business. And the reason I know that is because the manager told me, look, Rowie, he's a really nice bloke, but he's not the right fit for our business. Anyway, cut a long story short, the next time I heard about Trevor was the owner of the entire chain of health clubs.
Rhonda.
And her name was Rhonda, and she called me and she said, Rowie, who's this Trevor Basecki? And I said, Rhonda, why do you ask? And she said, because I have to employ him. And I said, tell me about that. And she said, well, Trevor rocks, the gym opens at 6. This was before 24-hour gyms. She said, the gym opens at 6. Trevor is always there at 5:45 in the morning welcoming the members. How are you? And he asks them the W questions. What are your goals? Why do you want to achieve your goals? Where do you want to achieve them? When do you want to achieve them? She said, he comes into the gym at 6. She said, I can't get my own employees to be excited about opening the gym at 6 o'clock, but Trevor's always there at 5:45. Meets all the members. Then she said he goes into the gym and helps train people. He spots them. She said, no one's paying him to do this. He cleans the mirrors, cleans the toilets, answers the phone. He's just the ultimate employee, and I don't even know that. The reason I know that is the members have called me at head office in Brisbane and said, Rhonda, you have to employ Trevor Basecki. He's the best person that you've ever had at this gym, and why isn't he working here? So I'm sharing with you that if you really want a position, if you really want a client, if you really want to be on a sporting team, and I use sporting teams again as an example. Some people say to me, Rowie, I'm not skilled enough to play the sport, or the sports told me that the teams told me that I can't play with this team. But if you rocked up at every training and you learned every skill and you learned every drill and you learned all the names of all the players and you rocked up every single day to the sporting facility and you learnt all about the team and the history of the team, and you help sell tickets to the games and you help market the business and you help clean the toilets and answer the phone and empty out the rubbish bins, how long do you think it would be before somebody on that team said to the owner of the team, this person has to be on our team? Now the next part of that is, let's use music and sport because there's skills. So is business and sales and everything else though, by the way, but let's use those two, music and sport. Even if you're not skilled at music, if you can't play piano, if you can't throw a basketball or you can't hit a tennis ball, the best in the world, the world champions, the experts, the people who are the very best in the world at any skill will tell you that they became skilled by practice. Yes, some of us have innate talent to sing or to play a musical instrument or to play a sport. But there's a lot of musicians and there's a lot of sports people who tell you that they weren't talented. They just practiced their asses off until they got good at it. And the interesting thing about the top athletes in the world, for example, the ones that have been studied, it's about 10,000 hours. If you put in 10,000 hours of proper practice, of passionate practice, then you will become really good at what you do. Now, time's going to pass you by anyway. So if you want to play on a sporting team, why wouldn't you just start now? I want to be a basketballer. Now, I'm not particularly excited about basketball, but I reckon if I shot 10,000 hours worth of basketball hoops, I'd probably get good at it too. How about you guys? So you can do it. And I'm sick of hearing can't. So many parents, teachers, teenagers, children say to me, I can't play that sport, I can't be a musician, I can't be a rock star, I can't be an actor, I can't work at that gym, I'm not good enough to be a personal trainer, I can't run a business. Well, of course you can't if you say that you can't. But the foolproof plan is simply this: do what you're the most passionate about, do whatever it takes, the training, the education, the learning, to get really good at it, and 10,000 hours is going to pass you by anyway. If you are passionate about something and if you're the best in the world at it, you will add massive value to the team, to the fans, to the business, to the customers, to the clients. It doesn't matter. People will want you on their team, in their organisation. And can you hear in my voice, it's all about the passion. But when you combine passion with practice and skill, now you have somebody who's really good at what they do. So the foolproof plan is simply do what you're the most passionate about, do whatever it takes to get the skill that you need. Make sure that you get in front of the right person, so do your research on who that person is. Make sure that you present yourself in the most effective way possible via your resume, your business proposal, the way you personally contact the person who's going to be responsible for employing you. Make sure that when you make that first impression, it is who you really are. Make sure that throughout the interview, you prove that you've done your research on the organisation. You prove that you're not arrogant and that you're willing to learn and do whatever it takes that you need to learn. And I'll just do a side note there. You might need to learn sales. You might need to learn computer skills. You might need to learn social media marketing. You might need to learn how to answer the phone. You might need to learn how to drive that particular bus. I don't know, whatever the skill is in that business. If you're passionate about working there, if you're passionate about being involved in that organisation, you will learn the skill because you want to. It's exciting, you want to. So make sure that whoever's interviewing you knows that you're prepared to do all of that. And interestingly, that you would be prepared to do it in your own time at your own expense. A lot of people say to me, well, they should pay me to do that, or they should train me to do that. Well, maybe they should, but they don't have to. Now, the next thing to be aware of is if you don't get the position, and I'm sharing with you that up until there, if you don't get the position, it's highly unlikely. But let's just say that you don't. If you really want this position, be aware that, and this is an interesting number to take note of, 80% of people don't make it through their trial period. I'll say that again. 80% of people don't make it through the trial period. And depending on which country you're in and what the employment laws are in that country, you can have a 3-hour, 3-day, 3-week, 3-month trial period. But people just don't make it through because they screw up. And I'm using the word screw up for a reason. If I'm really passionate about doing something, I'm going to go into an organisation and I'm definitely going to make mistakes because I've never worked there before. I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm going to make mistakes. But the only time we screw up is if we don't apologise for those mistakes, learn from them, grow from them, and get better because of them. A lot of people in their trial period screw up, make mistakes, but they justify why they made them, they blame someone else, they try and hide that they made a mistake, and then they wonder why at the end of their trial period the position's no longer available for them. So be aware that you actually don't have a position. Same with your clients, by the way. They can drop you whenever they want to. Their trial period is as soon as you screw up. So just be aware that that trial period, if you're going to work for somebody else, is that 80% of people don't make it through the trial period. So even if you don't get the position, it could still be available in 3 weeks or 3 months' time. And or when you send your feedback, please tell me how I can improve, get better so that I do get this position in the future. If a new position comes up, they're going to look at you first, of course. If the other person doesn't make it through the trial period, you're going to get the position, of course. But most people give up. Most people, if they don't get the job after the interview, they get all bitter and twisted and it should have been me and I should have got the job and how come they didn't pick me and I'm never going to go and apply for a job there again. And obviously, why would you even want to work at a place where you had that kind of attitude? If this is something that you really want, then why would you give up? Be the Trevor Basecki. Turn up, answer the phone, clean the toilets, empty out the rubbish bins. Be the person that they have to employ. And I'm going to say that again. When Rhonda called me, she didn't say, tell me about Trevor and is he a good guy? She just said, I have to employ him. That was her quote. So the position may not be available today. It may not be available in 3 months' time, but if that business is somewhere that you would like to work, then that a position there will come up in the future, and you want to make sure that you're the person that they pick. The other interesting thing is that those of you that are never going to work for someone else, you're going to run your own business. What I've shared with you now is some of the ideas on how to get great people on your team. How do you work out if somebody's going to be the best person for your team, and what systems are you going to put into place to make sure that you get the right person? And it's interesting because it's the biggest risk that you'll take in business. And right now we're in an interesting time where, as I shared, a lot of people will lose their job, or their job's not available anymore, or there's been redundancies, or there's people there's going to be restructuring in businesses. Can I promise you that, and again, this comes from employing literally thousands of people over my career path and asking thousands of employers, how does this process work? There's a lot of employers right now who are really excited about this corona correction, because they can get rid of, they're literally in the position now to get rid of their shitty employees. They actually can do it legally. Who they don't want to get rid of, who they really desperately want to keep, are the people who are the extra mile, 100% effort people. They don't want to lose those people. So even if the business goes broke, can I promise you that entrepreneurs are already thinking about their next business? So if this business, for instance, if you own an airline at the minute, you probably won't be doing too much flying for a while, or it won't be very far. But the people that own those businesses, and I'll just give you another example of that. I was talking to an employee today who works for Virgin. And he said he can't believe how much support that they're getting from the company and how good the CEO has been in this situation. So can I promise you that whatever's going on at all the organisations that are struggling at the moment, the visionaries, the great business people, the never give up attitude people, the people who thrive in confrontation, they are all looking for ways to change the business, restructure the business, start a new business. And if you're really good at what you do, they don't want to lose you. If you can show at this time that you are the person that's going to be great for their new business, they're going to keep you in mind. And that's why I always ask the question, wherever you are, wherever you go, you don't know who you're talking to, who you're dealing with. So the question is, how do I treat the people that can't do anything for me? You might think that you go to a public toilet and the person that's cleaning the toilet can't do anything for you, so you just treat them like they're the toilet cleaner. You don't know that that toilet cleaner isn't the grandma of a CEO of a company, and the owner of that company then brings grandma in to do the interview process because she's sitting on the sideline and she remembers you from the public toilet and the way you treated her poorly. And I'm just giving you some real life examples of, if you are a beautiful person, if you do what you're passionate about, if you're respectful and kind, you're very rare. People want you in their business. And the beautiful thing about a skill is that you can learn it. And I'm going to say that again. There are so many employees that have shared with me that they would rather have an unskilled person who is respectful and kind with a great attitude than have a skilled person who's arrogant. And so many people use the excuse, oh, I can't get that job because I haven't got the right skill. And that's just not true. If you've got a great attitude, if you've got great character, if you've got a never give up attitude, you'll get onto any team that you want to get onto. You'll play for any orchestra you want to play for. You'll get onto any organisation, onto any board of a business, networking group. You will get any client that you want if you have that kind of attitude. So this tonight isn't really about the foolproof plan for how do I get a great CV and how do I do a great interview. They're all part of, if you look at the sweet spot, they're all part of the second circle. Because if you're going to do what you're passionate about, you'll do whatever it takes to learn what kind of CV do I need to have, how do I need to interview, what kind of business plan do I have to have, what kind of marketing do I need to do, what kind of social media skills do I need to have. They will all come naturally because you're doing what you're the most passionate about. Most people focus on the skill rather than the passion. When you've got the passion and the drive, everything else comes naturally. So can I promise you that whatever it is that you want to do, you can do it. Woohoo! Everybody on the spot? On the mark, get set, 11 seconds, go! 11, 10, I'm getting my happy drugs. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, go, 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 1, 10 more seconds, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, woohoo! brain-derived neurotropic factor, dopamine. So what we've done now is we've expanded the brain, put a whole heap of information in there, stuff that may be useful today, may be useful for somebody else in your family, may be useful for you in the future. I hope I've given you some skills, tools and knowledge that will be valuable for you.